Hey there, it's CBS Sports HQ. We are 4 wide as we count down to Super Bowl 58. Chris Hassel, Amanda Garrett, Danny Kanell, and Pete Prisco. Tuesdays during the season, usually Pete Prisco's power rankings. In the postseason, we've given it to the quarterbacks. Last week it was Brady. This week it's going to be Danny, Amanda.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I get to pick apart your power rankings.
I don't know how much.
I mean, there's only 4 teams to rank.
How easy is that?
Honestly, he had the easiest job. I guess you could kind of do it for the Super Bowl, but that's really whatever team you think is going to win. 19 days away from the big game, the first time the city of Las Vegas has hosted the Super Bowl. They are expecting about 500,000 more people in town that weekend. And without knowing which teams will make it, right now, by the way, guys, ticket prices anywhere from $6,500 to $34,000. Why do I mention prices? I asked Chris how much he would pay to read Danny and Pete's power rankings. Now, initially he said the same. He said 0. And then he said, I have to quote here, Danny's would be more volatile. Pete's are pretty tame. So then he decided he would pay more for Danny's because, quote, he wouldn't be as stubborn and it would be more reactionary.
I think Pete's very stubborn with his rankings. I'm also... you really lost me when you ranked the Cleveland Browns number 5 going into the postseason. I hated that, and then they got blown out the first game by the Texans, so I'm glad Danny's got.
All right.
Bears top 10. How's that for you?
Next season?
I mean, he's not paying for your power rankings. He's going to shell out cash for Danny's.
Good. Let Danny do them next year.
You know what I could have done? I could have done like college football and said the Bills are still one of the strongest teams out there, and they should still be playing. I could have done
Bitter
that.
Man.
Yeah, right.
Bitter man.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
That's a bitter
he didn't
FSU
put
fan.
Florida State in his final four.
They put him everywhere else after the season.
What do you think of his rankings, Pete? He has San Francisco number 1, followed by the Ravens.
Is San Francisco the best team? No. Do they have the best path? Yes. Is that why you put them number 1?
No, I think they're the best team as well.
Even though Baltimore went there and destroyed them?
Yeah, I think so. Playing right now where they are. Absolutely.
No wonder why you wanted Florida State in the playoff. They went there on their field and blew them to smithereens, and yet you think 49ers are better.
I do. I think right now, the way they're playing, I think the 49ers are the better football team. I know they're both playing great football. The path also does matter as well. But I think the development of Brock Purdy, where he's been, he finally brought a team from back from behind. I think the defense has picked up since the trade deadline. Since they added Chase Young, I think the defense has been better. I think this team is more complete. Deebo Samuel's injury does concern me. Very curious to see where he is. And when it comes game time this weekend, if he doesn't play, I still think they could win without him this weekend and then get him full speed another couple weeks.
So, Pete, let me ask you that. What do you think about the 49ers being number 1? Also, what they need to do to reach the Super Bowl, because we're going to go through these teams and what each of them needs to do. Interesting note, they're 18-1 when Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel all play the entire game. Together, they're 2-4 when one of them doesn't play, with Deebo being a 50-50 shot right now.
I'm just trying to get what he's thinking here, first off. Okay, the Ravens destroyed them. Last week, the 49ers should not have beaten the Green Bay Packers. You would admit that, right? The Packers should have won that game.
Yes, they dominated in awful weather, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's your justification for making them number 1?
What do the odds makers have? I'm curious to know, because that's what I kind of gave Jack. I'm like, I kind of went with the odds makers.
49ers are the favorite right now to win.
Because they have a big
overall.
They're home and they have a bigger.
But they're still the overall favorite to win the Super Bowl.
They're not playing Patrick Mahomes. They're playing to get. They play the Lions. They're 7-point favorites. They're only 3.5-point favorites. There's a difference there.
Who do you think will be favored in the Super Bowl if they do square off?
Baltimore.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's either a pick 'em or Baltimore, 2.5.
And maybe it depends on how they look this weekend, too.
But what do the 49ers have to do? They have to be better rushing the passer than they were a week ago. I think that's imperative, and I say it all the time. If you block those guys up front, you're going to have success against the secondary. We saw that with Green Bay last week. The Green Bay offensive line handled that 49ers front, and they were able to make throws down the field. I think that's the key. They have to get better pressure, and they're supposed to. They're loaded with guys up front, led by Bosa. They should be better than what they were last week rushing the passer.
I think they've got to shut down Jared Goff in the pass game and the run game. I think this is where the defense has to step up. I have the most confidence that the 49ers are going to put up points against Detroit's defense, right? They're going to score. They do not want to get in a shootout with this team. I think that plays right into Detroit's hands. So I think their defense is the unit that has to step up. That's why, again, I'm not that worried about Deebo in this game. To me, it's about his health getting ready for the ultimate prize with this Super Bowl. I do think he can go out there at 60%, 70%, show himself the ability to play. So you have to at least worry about him and not utilize him that much. Like, he's a big portion of this offense. What he does, taking care, ball carries, also catching the football. I don't think you want to be handing him the ball in this game. It's going to be physical. I think you want him on the field, but maybe you kind of preserve him so that he's ready to go.
So
but I think
cautious.
Yeah, I think so. And like, you can't play the game cautious, but you can design a game plan to have a guy out there that is clearly a decoy where you're not featuring him as much as you would if he's fully healthy.
All right, so Danny's got the Niners 1. He's got the Ravens 2. The Ravens have a couple Super Bowl championships behind Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco, and now they have a guy who's going to win his second MVP award at a young age. Lamar Jackson's first AFC championship game. What kind of a, I don't know, disadvantage maybe is he at, considering the Chiefs have been there 6 straight years?
I mean, the disadvantage is the mental hurdle that he's got to get over. I mean, it's been the one question mark about Lamar is the lack of playoff success, and that was starting to really heat up after the first half last week, and then he took over the game like he's capable of doing, and I think he'll do that again. And I did think you saw Todd Monken and you saw Lamar Jackson personally putting more of the team on his back by running the football more. I thought he was more aggressive and yet still smart. Like, he still knew when to get down, but I think that'll be a similar game plan. I think this is the point in the season where you let it all rip and you say, you know what, we're going to go out there and we're going to use the full arsenal with Lamar Jackson and what he can do running the football. So I think they'll be physical. I also think the ground game has to get it going for Lamar Jackson.
The last time there was an AFC championship game in Baltimore was 1971. Oof. 1971, the Baltimore Colts. And Johnny Unitas, a Louisville quarterback, threw a touchdown pass in that game for the Baltimore Colts. So Lamar Jackson, a Louisville quarterback, back playing in a championship game in a city in the Baltimore.
That's why we keep Pete around, for the history.
That's right.
Yeah. So what are you trying to say there, Chris?
I'm just saying, you remember stuff like that not a lot of us
I told
would.
you by the end of the show.
Yeah. And I think this is a big moment for Lamar Jackson. This is his moment. It has to be his moment. The pressure is all on him. Mahomes has done it. And the whole narrative, he can't win on the road in the playoffs. Well, he won on the road in the playoffs. He's been to Super Bowls. He's won those. He's won MVPs. It's more about Lamar Jackson. Just like last week was more about Josh Allen, this week is more about Lamar Jackson. He has to prove he can get over the hump and he can get his team to a Super Bowl. If he does, then I think that answers the playoff narrative for him. Even if he doesn't win it, I think he can win it in the Super Bowl. But this game is all about Lamar Jackson.
Patrick Mahomes, the 6th time he has been in this position. A little stat to add on to how great he is. The first quarterback ever with 0 sacks and 0 turnovers in 3 straight playoff games. How did the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl, Pete? Anywhere you have some concerns, because a lot of our experts are leaning on the side of the Ravens.
Well, I'm actually going to lean on the side of the Chiefs in the game. I think Mahomes, until you knock Mahomes out, I'm picking him. And I think this is one of those situations where they have to run the ball like they did last week. You can't allow Baltimore to dictate defense. And they throw so many different looks at you. I mean, they've been so creative with what they do. But if you run it at them and you have success running it at them like they did last week against Buffalo, I think that's going to set up some play action down the field. So I think first and foremost, they have to run the ball. If they can't run the ball and Baltimore can tee off on them, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think the game plan for the Ravens is to be able to get after Patrick Mahomes the way the Bucs did in that Super Bowl loss. One of the rare Patrick Mahomes postseason losses. I think the key to this game might have nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes. Like, I trust he's going to play great. Amanda saw my face when the graphic came up there, 11-2, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the postseason alone. That is insane because he's put the team on his back and he doesn't turn the ball over. It's phenomenal. But I think it'll be about the other side. Can they get off the field versus the Ravens? Because I think the Ravens are going to try to control the game, be physical, control the line of scrimmage, utilize that run game, and keep Patrick Mahomes at bay. So I think that's the biggest factor in this game. I trust, even though I picked against the Chiefs last week, I was wrong picking the Bills, but their offense looks fine all of a sudden. And I think a lot of it has to do with Patrick Mahomes and him just figuring out ways to go. And when the lights come on, he shines the brightest.
And the Chiefs' defense has been really good this season. They're top 3 in defensive scoring. Ravens and Niners are also top 3. So 1, 2, 3 there. And then it's a big drop down to 23 for the Detroit Lions. Is it the defense that might end up costing them this week?
I think so. I mean, we were talking about the game plan for the 49ers. You don't want a shootout. I think if you're the Lions, you very clearly do want a shootout. You think, other teams have put up points on the 49ers. You can too. And I think their one thing that they've got to do is stop Christian McCaffrey. Like, if you were saying what aspect of the 49ers offense can you shut down, it's got to be Christian McCaffrey. He is the MVP of that team. I think he made a great case. He was right there in the conversation. I thought he was, second to Lamar Jackson. If you shut him down, can you put more of the game on Brock Purdy, especially knowing what we talked about with Deebo Samuel, that he's not 100%? Put it on Brock Purdy with one of his receivers, one of his better options at, that's not 100%. That, to me, is the formula for the Lions to win the game. And then they have to score probably almost every time they get the ball.
The funny thing is, you say, run McCaffrey and do that. But the weakness of the Lions is in that secondary. The cornerbacks are vulnerable. Cam Sutton's been awful this year, so you want to kind of attack them down the field if you can. But again, it takes you away from what your strength is, running Christian McCaffrey. So I think they're going to use McCaffrey more in the passing game. I think you can throw on this Lions defense. Hutchinson's had a great year rushing the passer. They don't have something on the other side to kind of complement him. They don't really get much pressure over there. So I think you can throw the ball on them. And they're very aggressive. And when you play the 49ers and you're aggressive, that can lead to real problems on stuff thrown back on the other way. They love to leak out guys and take advantage of that. So I think it's a major mismatch for the Lions defense. And I think they're going to have problems stopping him. But I also think the 49ers are going to have problems stopping the Lions as well.
Yeah, I think the Lions, I like the aggressive tactic. Like, if no one's picking you to win, you're at this point, be who you are, take those risks, and if you can get a turnover here or there, that could be the difference in the game, whether it's a sack, strip, fumble, whether it's an interception, pick six, take those risks, knowing if we get scored on, we can get the ball and go score with them.
The Packers had guys open all day against their defense. On the flip side, the Lions can really score. So I think to take advantage of being bad in the back end, you have to play to score a lot of points.
All right, Championship Sunday coming up. By Sunday night, we're going to know who is in the Super Bowl, who's going to be heading to Las Vegas to play on CBS Super Bowl 58. And for the first time, it is in Vegas. We'll have all your coverage here on HQ, CBS, and Paramount Plus.